Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Switched In. And right off the bat, I would like to say that I promise you, I am not just on some beat 'em up kick just because the last video that I did on here was about Mother Russia Bleeds. It just so happened that finally, after a very long wait, my limited run special edition of Streets of Rage 4 finally arrived, and I was really excited to sort of unbox and look at all the goodies that come with it, and then also to kind of see how it stacked up against the Xbox version, because that's the one that I played when the game first launched. So I was really hopeful that the Switch version would be just as good as the one that I played on the Xbox. So right now, let's just go ahead and take a look at all the physical goodies that you get with the Fancy Collector's Edition from Limited Run Games, and then after that, I'll kind of give my thoughts on playing it and a little bit about how it stacks up against the Xbox version, which again is the one that I originally tried it on. Now, as you can see here, the Collector's Edition is a beefy boy. It is easily the biggest box that I've ever gotten from Limited Run Games, but it kind of has to be because this box is absolutely overflowing with a ton of physical collectible goodies inside. Right off the bat, you got a bunch of cool stuff right in the top of the box as soon as you open it. You get the game itself, obviously, which itself is nestled inside a Genesis-style case, which I thought was really, really neat. And then you also have a larger Sega Genesis-style case, which holds a metal commemorative, non-functioning, obviously, cartridge that bears the name Streets of Rage 4. Now, normally I'm not real hot on collectible cartridges that have no functionality, but this thing is heavy and it actually feels pretty substantial, so I was kind of surprised by how much I actually did like the inclusion here. Beyond that, there's also a hardcover art book included, which has a ton of concept art from the game itself. A double disc full soundtrack, which I really appreciated because I much prefer having the entire soundtrack for a game rather than just like a collection of, the best tracks from the title. It also includes a steelbook, which sort of has the same artwork on it as the exterior of the box, as you can see here. And it also comes with a giant fold-out poster, which features the same art from the outside of the box. And then finally, the coup de grace, the big offering for this collector's edition, is the statue that they've included, and this thing looks amazing. Now, I've seen a lot of collector's editions over the past few years start to include statues, however, I have to say this one feels heavy, it feels substantial, it does not feel sort of cheap and plasticky, it's the real deal. And then I totally forgot that this actually did come with a squeezy kind of stress ball sort of chicken that you can pick up in the game, which I thought was hilarious. But then all in all, looking at all these inclusions together, I have to say, truly, this is one of the best collector's editions that I purchased for the Switch, period, not even just from Limited Run. None of the included items really feel like cheap afterthoughts, they all feel like really high quality stuff, and much like the game itself, it's an incredibly bold and vivid collection. But it wouldn't make sense to really get a big fancy collector's edition for the game if the game didn't play well, and I'm happy to report that it totally does. So far as I can tell, nothing was lost in translation from the other platforms coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I was a little bit worried that because the Switch is a less powerful console, that might mean that, some of the graphical effects might get scaled back, or that even though it is a 2D game, the performance might suffer a little bit, but so far as I can tell, it has been completely smooth in my time playing that one as compared to when I first experienced the game on the Xbox One. And honestly, this is my preferred platform for games in this genre. That's because the ability to take something as usually quick and breezy as a beat 'em up and be able to take it on the go is absolutely awesome. And thankfully, the game played just as well in portable mode as it did in docked mode. Now, if you've never played Streets of Rage before, it is very similar to a lot of the other beat-em-ups that you might have played. However, I have to give particular merit to Streets of Rage 4 because the animation, and particularly the soundtrack, just come together so wonderfully well. The whole thing is really well animated, and it just has style for days. However, all the things that I love about Streets of Rage 4 are not just skin deep. It feels really good. Punches feel impactful. Special moves and grabbing items and interacting with the environment and the enemies that constantly swarm you feels really responsive. One small thing that they do that I really like here is that if you notice whenever you get a particularly heavy hit, the screen will shake just a little bit, and that might be jarring to some people, but I thought it really went a long way towards driving home that feeling of impact that you want in a brawler like this. And there's a whole lot more to this than just generic punching and kicking. Each one of the individual characters has their own strengths and weaknesses, not too unlike Mother Russia Bleeds. And like Mother Russia Bleeds, depending on which character you pick, your experience is going to be a little bit different. You can go fast and light, where your attacks may not do a ton of damage, but what you lose there you make up for in flexibility. You can go for a medium, well-rounded character like Axel, who's just pretty good at just about everything that you do in the game. Or you can go for an absolute heavy hitter who's going to be very slow, but ultimately they're going to be able to take a beating and also dole out a ton of punishment. Not to mention there's a lot of replay incentive here because there are other characters that you can unlock throughout the course of the story, and you're scored at the end of each level based on how much damage you put out, whether or not you had any remaining health at the end of that level, and other factors that really encourage you to just sort of keep going and see if you can play the game better. At the end of the day, it's easy to see that the developers really had a lot of love for the series, and they did their best to make a worthy successor for a game that is fondly remembered by many people who were Genesis fans back in the day. And don't forget, if you want to experience Streets of Rage 1 through 3, you can absolutely pick up the Genesis Classics collection for the Nintendo Switch, so you can have all of them on one platform like I did. However, if you haven't played the original 3, I would not let that dissuade you from playing 4, because it absolutely stands well on its own, and I promise you're going to have a great time with it. Alright, so that's it for this video, but hey, what about you? Have you already played Streets of Rage 4? Were you somebody who also held out for the limited run physical edition to come in? Let us know in the comments below. Always appreciate your feedback. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch our videos. We definitely appreciate that. And for everything Nintendo Switch, keep it right here on Switched In. Alright, later.